Hello and welcome back to the second part of Chapter 12. And so we're going to start here with mobilizing your personal brand. And so what do we mean by that? We mean, whatever you're putting out there on social media becomes associated with you and how people view you, how they think about you, and that becomes your own brand, so to speak. And so when you're doing that, be sure that your website that you're going to be putting information out about yourself is going to be optimized for being on a mobile device. Also, if you're doing a blog, make sure that's also optimized for being on a mobile device. Think about what kind of content you want to create to put out there. The images, what kind of images do you want to put out there that tells a story about you? Do you want to be dressed nicely all the time? Do you want to be with friends all the time? Do you want to be doing some kind of activity? Those sort of things that kind of portray who you are and what you stand for. Think about, also who you're sharing with and who you're following on social media. Um, and then what you're subscribing to, all of that can be tracked. I think I mentioned in a previous video, if you're on LinkedIn, sometimes the credit bureaus can use the information of who you are linking to maybe influence your credit score. So if you've linked to a lot of people with bad credit, chances are you might have bad credit as well, and so you might be labeled as such, and that goes all in as part of your personal brand. Um, you also want to get people to follow you as much as you can, and so that's what this low-key text campaign is. And so you might want to think about using um, uh, Twitter and LinkedIn in order to get people to follow you. And then lastly, make sure you're actually monitoring everything and what's going on. You also want to make sure that all the content that you've developed looks appropriate on a mobile device. If things don't come up and it's difficult to navigate, difficult to scroll, that also sends information about you that you didn't care enough in order to make sure it was working right, and so that becomes part of your personal brand as well. Some other information you should know about is are people actually making purchases on mobile phones? How are they going about making that final purchase? And so what they're finding is that a lot of people are using the mobile devices to do searches, to do some comparisons. They're looking for your competitors, competing products or services. They might be looking at where you're located. All of that gets them to the store. And so they're looking at different sites on the internet. They might be on an app to find the information. If they can't find it quickly, they're going to move on somewhere else. I know that, if I'm going to Sam's, sometimes I don't remember when Sam's is open on the weekends. And so I want to find that time when they're open right away. Now, it may be that the Sam's app that I have on my phone, when the people were designing that, they didn't think having that in a conveniently located place and easy to find quickly would be useful. And so I get frustrated a little bit every time I try and find that information. But those are the sort of things you have to think about your audience. What information are they looking for? Where are they looking for it? Can they easily find it? Anything you can do to help them find that information is going to help drive them towards that final decision, that final purchase. If your audience is using a tablet, then they're more likely to be making that purchase on the tablet. So maybe you have a different type of campaign for people who are using the tablet. But again, mobile device shopping is increasing, and you need to be aware of that. So you want to look for graphs like we've got here. We've got different purchase channels used by desktop and mobile purchasers. So the dark blue is PCs and the light blue is mobile. So what are they purchasing? So a lot of stuff they're finding was purchased groceries on mobile. That's the highest. Then they go to furniture, health and beauty, sports equipment, and so on. But the least amount of purchasing you see here is electronics. And then after that, before that, maybe books, but it's a smaller percentage. But you need to keep up with these types of information so that you know what people are purchasing there and what's making them do the purchases and so on. Another thing to be aware of is if they can find you locally, then they're more likely to purchase something there where they can find it local. So make sure that's available to them and they can easily find you. And so you can see here when they're using their desktop, PC, or laptop, what results in a local purchase. Mobile phone, they can find you 78%, and then down to 64% with a tablet. So kind of summarize what we've been talking about is that mobile is becoming more important. It's going to be the dominant form of how people are looking for things and making purchases. They're using social networking as part of their mobile activity. They're going to those places, so that's where you got to put your ads. They're still using it for communication, shopping activities are part of that funnel, so they may not actually be doing the purchasing, but they may be looking for competing products or do a comparison or finding more information. Eventually, hopefully, that'll drive them to make the purchase, right? And then the likelihood of the purchase depends on the price. It also depends on the type of product. Sometimes they're just looking for it and they actually want to come into a brick and mortar store in order to look at the product some more before they make that final purchase. The next thing your book talks about is, what impact will a buy button have on social networking sites? Similar to what you have on Amazon, the one click where you can click now and you buy it and it just sends it right on through. So you have different social media sites that have been using that. Again, I would suggest you just keep up and see what's working. It may be that one of these social media sites or apps, people are more likely to make a purchase than they are when they're using another site. If that's the case, then that's the app, the location where you want to use your advertising dollars in order to attract those people and hopefully get them to make a purchase. So then when you think about your strategy, again, I go back to if mobile is increasing as great as the data is showing, then you want to target this area first. So either mobile first, or if you're thinking an audience first type of strategy, use lots of data to define who your audience is and get that target audience established. And then you go after it using traditional marketing techniques. But recognize that it's not just social media marketing, it's all the other channels that are available to you. So it's even the offline ones, which would be TV, traditional print ads that you have in magazines and newspapers, even flyers, billboards. So that leads to this concept of omni-channel marketing. And so this is where you're using different aspects of different channels in order to go after the consumer and give them the experience, so to speak, that they're looking for. So it's probably better represented in the middle here. And so you see that the customer then is in the middle. And so how are they then marketed to? And so you have mobile areas that they have, some kind of social media that they're using, some kind of online that's also available to them, maybe a website. You have the physical store that they can go to. You have a customer resource management program that's tracking their habits, their purchases, any other information that might give us insight into how this customer might react to our product or service. And we're using lots of data from all over the place that will help us influence this customer. And so it's everything together, and that's what we mean by this omni-channel. Next thing we want to turn our attention to is location-based marketing. And so we know that check-in apps are in decline. We know that people can use or select their location in the apps so that when they post or they're in Twitter, that it kind of gives a tag, a geotag, if you will, about where they're at. So you can see here, Facebook's been able to do it for a while. We have Twitter. Instagram has something like a photo map for their images, and LinkedIn also has the ability to let users show their locations. And so this becomes very useful when you're going after the local markets. Right? And we have an example in the book where a supermarket chain called Tesco was using something called Bluetooth beacons. And beacons are a device, they're probably near proximity where you might be 3 feet away. Once that goes off, then it does something. It could put something on your phone or alert you to something. The latest example that I've read about is on cruise ships. And so they can, on a cruise ship, they might have different things at different portions on the ship, and as you walk by, it might give you some more information about that. And that's because the beacon is located there and it senses when you come by. And so when somebody comes on a ship, they might give you a tag to wear. Inside that tag is some kind of sensor that the beacon can pick up on, and then it knows you're close by. It'll send out information, and in this case, it might be an ad, or something free that if you come in here, we'll give you this in order to hopefully get you to buy something else or buy some more of that item. All right, so it's a location-based technology, and so supermarkets could be using it, people in malls could be using it, and so they're able to not only get their ads out, but then track customers and how many customers would be coming by and how often, what days of the week, and so on. So there's a lot of information that can be gathered and used by using these beacons. So if you look at this figure here, you can see how this beacon can be used by your proximity, how close you are to certain things, to create an experience for you or to give you a promotion or ad or something. Another unique thing would be is that it could enable your phone to be able to allow you to check out instantly. So with this Tesco experiment, people could go in and buy or pick up the item they wanted, scan that in, and then when they're ready, they scan here to check out, and it automatically goes into their phone and it deducts it from their account, and they're out the door, so they're not waiting in line for things to get rung up. And so you're going to see more and more of that take place as they work out the bugs and the security issues that they have with that technology. So with all this information that we've been talking about, it relates to something called the customer experience, and they refer to this as CX. And so it's not just one event, but it's the sum of all the events and interactions that a customer has. So if we go back to that omni-channel diagram, it's all the events and experiences they get from each of those channels. And so it just takes one event that's bad that turns somebody off. So you got to make sure that everything is working properly and giving that customer the experience that you think they're looking for. And you've got to monitor that and may have to change that as people give you feedback on whether that's working or not. And so having that good customer experience then is going to help you increase the customer loyalty. And once they have loyalty to a certain brand, then you're going to be able to calculate what a customer lifetime value is. So once you have a customer and you can keep a customer, how much revenue could that customer bring to you? And so with smartphones, then that customer experience is created with small micro moments throughout the day. And so here you might do a search for product services. You might use your phone to find information while looking at or doing other things. You might use your phone to help buying decisions. So all the searches, all the looking, comparing, finding different information, all of that is an experience by itself, each one of those items. If anything goes bad, then you turn them off and they're probably not going to do anything. So you want to make sure that that works properly. And so the last thing we want to talk about is the best practices in social media or social mobile marketing. Again, we've talked about this over and over again, is understand your target audience and how they're using mobile devices and how that plays a part in their daily lives, right? You need to give consumers complete control of the data that they share with brands. You don't want to try and trick them into giving up information that they didn't think they were giving up. Make sure the information that you provide is relevant to the current circumstances and has the potential to be immediately useful. So you don't want to give them bad information or information that's outdated. Right? Think about how the search becomes very important to the user, and so you need to take special care that your sites are optimized for mobile searches. Again, that mobile first, audience first mentality. Also remember that business to business customers are using mobile and expect content to be available in their mobile formats as well. So it's not just consumer to business or business to consumer that you have to worry about the mobile, it's everything. Right? And then lastly, that mobile experience is part of that overall customer experience. If that's bad, then it doesn't matter about the other channels, it can go bad as well. Right? And with mobile becoming increasingly more and more done, that's going to be the initial contact that you're going to have with these potential customers. So you got to make sure that that is really, really working well. And so that ends this chapter.